This is one of my favourite stories for the Christmas New Year period, and it's from Derbyshire where I live, so it's a story I particularly like and it always goes down well. It's called The Man Who Stole the Parson's Sheep. I don't know where in Derbyshire it's supposed to happen, but it could be anywhere where there was lead mining, which is a lot of the Peak District. And there was a man, a lead miner, and his family, his wife and children. He had umpteen children, one each year. And as with most lead miners, they just scraped a living for most of the year. But at Christmas, he always made sure that they had a really good meal for Christmas dinner, because every year, without fail, he'd steal a sheep. Now, everyone knew he did this, but no one could ever prove it, because the evidence had always disappeared before they could get round to finding it. Well, one year, the sheep he stole just happened to belong to the village parson. And by sheer chance, the next day, the parson was walking down the lane in the middle of the Derbyshire countryside, nothing much to see, dry stone wall on either side. And as he was walking down this lane, he became aware of singing. And he just peeped over this wall. And there was one of the young boys from this big lead miner's family just playing in the dirt over the wall, piling up stones and building things with sticks. And as he was doing that, he was singing to himself. He was singing, "My father's stolen the parson's sheep, so a right good Christmas we shall keep. We shall have both pudding and meat, and he can't do nothing about it." And without letting on, the parson just spoke to him and said, "I say, lad, you've got a lovely voice. You can sing really well. You shouldn't keep that as a secret. You should let everyone in the village know how well you can sing. I tell you what," said the parson, "you come along to church on Sunday, and after the service you can sing your song to all the people in the village." "Oh, I couldn't do that," said the boy. "I couldn't come to church and stand up in front of everyone. I've got no clothes to wear. I've got no shoes to put on. Look at me, I'm all dressed in rags." "Oh, don't worry about that," said the parson. "I can soon find you some clothes to wear. I'll get you some boots. You just come along and sing your song." "Oh, I don't know any songs I could sing," said the boy. "That little song you were singing then," said the parson. That would be really good. You come and sing that one." So it was agreed, and the little boy said he would. Sure enough, before the service on Sunday morning, the boy turned up and the parson rigged him up in some second-hand clothes and found a pair of boots that just about fitted him. And at the end of the service, the parson went up into the pulpit and said, Brethren, before you leave, there's a boy in this village who can sing really beautifully, and he's going to share it with you now." And he beckoned the little boy. And the boy walked up the aisle and got to the front of the church, turned round and faced the congregation. He smiled up at the parson in the pulpit, and then he started to sing. "When I was in the field one day, I saw the parson kiss a maid. He gave me a shilling not to tell, and these new clothes do suit me well." "We have a poor old horse, and he's standing at your door. And if you'll let us in, sir, he'll please you all, I'm sure. Poor old horse, poor old horse."
young horseman in his youthful prime. Our master used to ride on him, he thought him very fine. Poor old horse, poor old horse. You join in with that bit? Now that he's grown older, age doth decay, the master frowns upon him, and these words I heard him say. Poor old horse, poor old horse. His feeding was the best, sir, the best of corn and hay that grows down in the fields and in the meadows gay. Poor old horse, poor old horse. But now that he's grown older, scarcely can he crawl. He has to eat the coarsest grass that grows against the wall. Poor old horse, poor old horse. Body that's so nimbly gallops many miles, o'er hedges, over ditches, over 5 bar gates and stiles. Poor old horse, poor old horse. To the huntsman he shall go, both his old hide and his hoofs, likewise his tender carcass the hounds will not refuse. Poor old horse, poor old horse. Poor old horse, and he's standing at your door, and if you'll let us in, sir, he'll please you all, I'm sure. Poor old horse, poor old horse. Poor old horse, poor old horse. I've always liked the big ballads collected by Professor Child, the Child ballads, and this is one of them. And sometimes they've got a bit of a reputation, you know, in folk clubs. You know, oh no, not another long, boring ballad. I don't find them long, boring at all. They can be done in a long, boring fashion, but if you do them well, they're best stories around. This one has got
800 verses.
800 verses, yeah. No, I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say it's got murder, rape, just about every crime you can think of, including lying to your mother. So what more could you want? Called Rosie Ann. Rosie Ann sits at her father's hall, weeping and making moan. When by there comes her own father dear, what ails thee, Rosie Ann? A deal and a deal, dear father, says she, good reason have I for to moan. For there lies a babe between my two sides, between me and my brother John. Fair Rosie Ann sits at his father's home, weeping and making moan. comes her own mother dear. What ails thee, Rosie Ann? A deal and a deal, dear mother, says she. Good reason have I for to moan. For there lies a babe between my two sides, between me and my brother John. Fair Rosie Ann sits at her father's door, weeping and making moan. When by there comes her own sisters three. What ails thee, Rosie Ann? A deal and a deal, dear sister, says she. Good reason have I for to moan. There lies a babe between my two sides, between me and me brother John. Now a brother, he was sitting in the very next room, and he heard what she had to say. And he is away to fair Rosie Ann as fast as he can go. Oh, you told me father, and you told me mother, and you told me sisters all three. And he has taken off fair Rosie Ann's head and her fair body in three. What blood is this upon your sword, son John, pray tell unto me? Well, it is the blood of my greyhound, dear mother and fair lady. Your greyhound's blood was ne'er so red, son John, pray tell unto me. Well, it is me horse's blood that I did kill, dear mother and fair lady. Your horse's blood was ne'er so clear, son John, pray tell unto me. Well, I have taken off fair Rosie Ann's head and her fair body in three. What will you do when your father comes home, son John, pray tell unto me? I'll take the best horse from out of his stable and go as far as I can flee. And what will you do with your bonny young bride, son John, pray tell unto me? I'll put her on board of a bonny, bonny ship, and I'll hope that she will follow me. And what will you do with your bonny young son, son John, pray tell unto me? I'll leave him with you, dear mother, he said, to care for in remembrance of me. And what will you do with your houses and your lands, son John, pray tell unto me? I'll sell them all and I'll give you the money to care for my wee baby. And when will you return again, my son John, pray tell unto me? When the sun and the moon rise behind yonder green hill, and that will never, never be. As I was a-strolling one day down St Albans, as I was a-strolling one day down that way, who should I see but one of me comrades, wrapped up in a blanket and colder than clay. He asked for a candle to light him to bed with, and likewise a blanket to tie up his head. His poor head was aching, his heart was nigh breaking. He was a young sailor off to his last home. At the top of the street, two flash girls were standing, and one to the other did whisper and say, there goes a young sailor whose money we squandered. There goes a young sailor off to his last home. His poor aged mother, his poor aged father, had oftentimes told him to keep from these girls, those girls of the city, flash girls of the city, flash girls of the city were the ruin of him. And away to the churchyard where you'll find it written, come all you young fellows, take warning by me, and never go courting flash girls of the city. Flash girls of the city were the ruin of me. I was a-walking one day down St Albans, as I was a-walking one day down that way, who should I meet but one of me comrades, wrapped up in a blanket and colder than clay.
House to the maidens of old Takawana.
Right.
House to the maidens of far off Maui. Have you been merry, not be melancholy? I'd marry you all, but my wife won't agree. Rantin will roar like true Yankee whalemen. Rantin will roar on deck and below, till we sight gay head off home of his vineyard. Straight up North Shores in a Bedford we'll go. Come out tonight. Buffalo cows, won't you come out tonight and dance by the light of the moon? I got a gal, she's long and tall. She'll get you with feet in the hall. She's good looking and that's not all. Tell me, won't you come out tonight? Buffalo gals, won't you come out tonight? Come out tonight, come out tonight. Buffalo gals, won't you come out tonight? He loves it if people sing to him. So if you'll sing Buffalo gals, won't you come out tonight? He'll be your best friend. 1, 2, 3, hit it.
Buffalo gals, won't you come out tonight? Come out tonight, come out tonight. Buffalo gals, won't you come out tonight?
Dance by, do it again.
Buffalo gals, won't you come out tonight? Come out tonight, come out tonight. Buffalo gals, won't you come out tonight?
Dance by the light. He'll be back.
All right.
When the shanty boy comes down, in his pocket's 50 pounds, he will look around some pretty girl to find if he finds her not too shy, with a dark and rolling eye. And the shanty boy is well pleased in his mind. Well, the landlady comes in, she is neat and very trim. She is like the evening star. If she finds him in the trim, she is always ready to wait on him. And from 1 to 2 they'll sit up on the bar. So the shanty boy goes on till his money is all gone. And the landlady, she begins to fret. Oh, he says, my lady, do not fret. I will pay my honest debt and bid adieu to the girl we left in town. Back to the woods he'll go, with his heart so full of woe. And he'll wander around from tree up to tree, till 6 months have gone and passed. All his cares have gone at last. It is time for him to go upon a spree. There's a crew that's in command, so the old folks understand. And it's to the dark woods that we must go, with a bottle and a song. We will shove the old canoe along and bid adieu to the girl we left in town. When the shanty boy comes down, in his pocket's 50 pounds, he will look around some pretty girl to find if he finds her not too shy, with a dark and rolling eye. And the shanty boy is well pleased in his mind. The shanty boy comes down.
Hi there, folks. Dan McKinnon here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. It's really difficult to believe it's only been a year since the last Tenterden Folk Festival. So much has happened. Thank goodness we still have something to hold on to, music being one of those things. I'm going to do a traditional ballad from Nova Scotia for you. This one is a song collected by Helen Creighton, who was a folklorist from 1932 to 1974. In her travels, aside from all the folklore, she collected over 4,000 folk songs. This ballad, Jessie Monroe, being one of them. One fine summer's evening, as I went out walking down by Leicester Market, I chanced for to go. I spied a fair damsel, she attracted my attention. I'll tell you about her as far as I know. Right fall the die-day, right fall the die-daddy. I'll tell you about her as far as I know. I said, my fair lady, where is your dwelling? Who is your father? I'd fain like to know. My father, he's a blacksmith, and he lives down in Liscombe. And I am his daughter, young Jessie Munro. Right fall the die-day, right fall the die-daddy. I am his daughter, young Jessie Munro. I have lots of buildings, lands of my own love. Down by the wayside is oft you may go, and you, my dear darling, may lie in my arms like a lamb at the bosom, dear Jessie Munro. Right fall the die-day, right fall the die-daddy, like a lamb at the bosom, dear Jessie Munro. Deceitful young Johnny, be gone with such flattery. Into your buildings I never will go. Your buildings are shattery, so be gone with such flattery. There's a handsome young laddie for Jessie Munro. Right fall the die-day, right fall the die-daddy. There's a handsome young laddie for Jessie Munro. I'll be gone now, young Jessie, since you are so saucy. Back to my Betsy again I will go. She isn't so bonny, but she's fitting for Johnny. So away to the devil, young Jessie Munro. Right fall the die-day, right fall the die-daddy. So away to the devil, young Jessie Munro. Right fall the die-day, right fall the die-daddy. So away to the devil, young Jessie Munro. Thank you, folks. I thought I'd sing a song that I had written a number of years ago, one of my favorites to play of my own, and I based it on stories I used to read as a young child. I loved the stories, and I still love them to this day. I didn't know it at the time, but they had been written over 2,000 years ago by a Greek slave. The stories were small little fables. Fables about the fox and the grapes, and the tortoise and the hare, and the wind and the sun. And I named it after the writer of these stories, or the teller of these stories, Aesop. Aesop's Fables. Grandfather fished by an old mill stream, an elfin mustache and a can of worms. He'd share his lunch from a fishing creel in the shade of an old oak tree. We'd cast our lines, then we'd sit and wait, fish and talk till the day turned late. He'd tell me his stories, I'd tell him my dreams in the shade of an old oak tree. Grandfather taught me everyone can learn. He gave credence to the saying, one good turn. He always found joy in the rain and the sun, and pride in a job well done. I listened as he talked about the wind and the sun, how gentleness prevails, restraint proves strong, how things are easier said than done in the shade of an old oak tree. He told me Aesop's fables. With time I came thus to that old mill stream. Summers were a time for friends and dreams. The last time we fished he seemed old and frail, still he smiled as we talked a while. He said the path of life is a river, my son. Its twists and turns, not a straight, easy run. Fools know all the answers, but little of themselves. And he spoke of the wind and the sun. Grandfather taught me everyone can learn. He gave credence to the saying, one good turn. He always found joy in the rain and the sun, and pride in a job well done. I listened as he talked about the wind and the sun, how gentleness prevails, restraint proves strong, how things are easier said than done in the shade of an old oak tree. He told me Aesop's fables. Years have passed since my grandfather's time. It took a lot of living, but now I find so many lessons he left behind I learned by that old oak tree. So I take my son fishing by an old mill stream, share my lunch from a fishing creel, tell him my stories, he tells me his dreams in the shade of that old oak tree. I tell my son everyone can learn, give credence to the saying, one good turn, always finding joy in the rain and the sun, pride in a job well done. He listens as I talk about the wind and the sun, how gentleness prevails, restraint proves strong, how things are easier said than done in the shade of that old oak tree. I tell him Aesop's fables. I'm very happy to be part of this year's Tenterden Folk Festival. It was such a grand time last year that it's a real treat to be able to be there again, even if it is only virtually. Many of you who've seen me before know that I love stories. I love telling stories. I love singing them. I love listening to them. And one person who I listened to many stories from was my grandmother. I grew up in the same household with her, so we heard the stories many times and often, but sometimes there were new stories that crept into the conversation. And anybody who's heard me sing this song before knows the story, but I have never said that she loved to sing. And she sang many different songs, but a lot of them from the early 1900s, the 19-teens, the 1920s and 30s, things that she really knew well. And one of the songs she used to sing an awful lot was this particular song. You may know it. If you do know it, please join in. East side, west side, all around the town, the tots sang ring around rosy London bridges falling down. Boys and girls together, me and maybe O'Rourke, trip the light fantastic on the sidewalk of New York. Their courtship began with a walk in the rain. Her sweater was buttoned, his hat brim pulled down. In the mist, haloed street lamps stood muted and still as they walked without making a sound, past wide-windowed storefronts that looked strangely new. For only a moment they stopped just to see in the window's reflection her arm slipped through his as she walked with the man of her dreams. In her heart she loved to go walking arm in arm with the man of her dreams. In her heart she loved to go walking arm in arm with the man of her dreams. Past old friends and faces they smiled as they walked. Together as one, their new life had begun, and they laughed and they cried and they loved and they talked, and they dreamed of the years yet to come. But just as their summer was turning to fall, in the still of an afternoon she got the call. How while he'd been out flying, the plane engine stalled. Now she mourns for the man of her dreams. In her heart she loved to go walking arm in arm with the man of her dreams. In her heart she loved to go walking arm in arm with the man of her dreams. So softly she rocks by the window and speaks how so long ago he was taken that day, and she tells us the tales of her dreams as she sleeps, how the man in her dreams runs away. Early one morning they found her quite still. Her sweater was on with a neck buttoned down. If you ask me, I'll tell you where she can be found. She's gone walking with the man of her dreams. In her heart she loves to go walking arm in arm with the man of her dreams. In her heart she loves to go walking arm in arm with the man of her dreams. In her heart she loves to go walking arm in arm with the man of her dreams. The man of her dreams. Thank you, folks. Have a great festival. Cheers for now.